And so what we want to do is look at how in many cases this word is being used by people or companies to promote something that actually has nothing to do with somatics. It's the buzzword, it's the keyword that people are looking for on the internet, and people want to take advantage of that. Hello and welcome back. Now, just before we get started with this episode, if you're watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, please could you like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell so every time an episode is released, you find out very quickly. So today's episode has actually come about from a lot of discussions and comments sent to me after having a podcast episode with Dr. Sarah Wilson a few episodes back, where we talked about resilience, mindset, and focus. And there was a little bit within that episode where I talked about somatics and how I've been talking about somatics for years. Sarah even mentioned how I would talk about the process of pandiculation, and she was like, "What is that?" And back then, when Sarah and I met several years ago, she didn't really know anything about it. And now she's hearing the word somatics everywhere. And as we developed the discussion, I mentioned how it's become the buzzword, but it's kind of being used in the marketing realm and not in such an accurate context. So I thought today, from all the discussions and comments and people resonating with that comment as well, that I would bring this into a specific episode, should I say, talking about what clinical somatics is and what it is not, because it's really important to differentiate that there. Okay, so the word somatics, as I've mentioned, has become a very trendy, popular word. And in recent times, it's been slid into lots of things online for marketing purposes. If you were just to put in a search at the moment, you would find the word somatics is quite a popular word that people are searching for. And so what we want to do is look at how in many cases this word is being used by people or companies to promote something that actually has nothing to do with somatics. It's the buzzword, it's the keyword that people are looking for on the internet, and people want to take advantage of that. And you may have also noticed that I know here in Australia there are celebrities as well using the word somatics or somatic in areas such as Pilates. And yet, when you actually look at the meat and the context and the material that they're teaching, it's just Pilates. But they've brought in this whole concept of somatics. And even in their teachings of somatic Pilates, there's very little to do with that whole principle and foundations of it. It's just, again, been another way to market. And again, something that's jumped up on my social media feed in sponsored ads, and many clients in the clinic here and many people online have commented, is have your things such as you'll have adverts such as somatics for weight loss. And yet when you go underneath that trendy heading and you have a look, it's things like stretches and yoga, but they've used the word again. And so, what I want to do is ensure that we're not going to be ruining what that word truly is by using it in just purely a marketing sense. And I mentioned to Sarah in that episode that in 2 or 3 years' time, when there's another buzzword out, people will jump on that for marketing, but I'll still be here teaching the true clinical somatic movement. And that's why I want us to stay focused on what it truly is and how it can benefit you. And so this has led to a huge misunderstanding about what clinical somatics truly is. And that's why I've got this episode today, because I want to discuss with you the subject of clinical somatics and how it can benefit you, but three fundamental principles or pillars of clinical somatic education. That's what makes it what it is. That's what's missing in other arenas where they're just tagging it on for marketing reasons. So before I go on, I just want to let you know that once a year, towards the end of the year, I always hold a free online event, and it's called the Total Somatics Live Experience. Within that live experience, I will go into the nitty-gritty, the deep areas, that much more than what I'll cover in this episode. We will cover things in this episode here, but if you can join me for that free live event, that would be wonderful. And I will send you more details closer to the time for the dates and all that sort of thing. But if you stay connected with me, either within my podcasts here or with my blogs, if you're subscribed to my blogs, you will find out all of that detail later on. But that's a yearly event that I hold, and it's really about educating people within the field of clinical somatic movement so you really understand what it truly is. So let me explain briefly what clinical somatics is, and then obviously we'll delve much deeper later in the year with the Total Somatics live experience. So clinical somatics was created by Dr. Thomas Hanna. Now, Thomas spent many years developing and training many practitioners within this field. And over that time, with his background in psychology, looking at human movement and behavior, he was a very, very well-versed, well-researched chap. He then discovered there were three fundamental pillars that he wanted to highlight within clinical somatic education and clinical somatic movement. So what Thomas did is he taught and he demonstrated in detail postural stress reflexes that are triggered by your brainstem. Your brainstem is right here at the back of your head. It's known as the subconscious part of your brain. So it's the part that's keeping us alive. As you and I are here now, our heart is beating, we're breathing, we have lots of hormonal secretions happening. All of this is happening without our conscious control. It's just happening, keeping us alive, which is an incredible thing, really. But within the brainstem houses these postural stress reflexes that will come about in a stress response. And so when they happen, they are to help our survival, to get us out of a situation, to preserve our life. The difference is that many people continue to live in these postural stress reflexes because nowadays we have one stress and one demand after another. Plus, we have behavioral patterns and habits that will feed in and develop and reinforce those muscular patterns of tension throughout our body. So before we know it, we become very stuck in a very tight, robotic, wooden body. I often say to people it's a bit like walking around in a suit of armor, like think of a medieval knight in armor. Very stiff, very awkward, very difficult to bend and twist and rotate. That sort of thing happens with your brain patterning tension subconsciously and holding it chronically tight, in some cases for many years. And so these postural reflexes is one of the first pillars or foundations of clinical somatic movement. And that's why we realize that we have to change the state of our nervous system. We have to access our brain in order to change the level of tension and tightness within our muscular system. There's a full embodiment practice that is happening in order to bring our awareness to that. Because if we can sense and feel that there are changes or there's limitations in what we're doing, then we're able to change that sort of thing. Because if we can't sense and feel it, we don't know that's happened. And in some cases, that's why many people will come to clinical somatics, because they've tried everything, but they haven't actually been shown about these postural reflexes and how they will pattern tension in your body for many years. And so that's why, again, we want to be able to create a flexibility and a resilience within your nervous system that means that we can go into those postural reflexes because we need them for our survival, but we're able to come out of them back into a state of balance or homeostasis. The second pillar that I just want to share with you again here with clinical somatics is we use the process called pandiculation to release chronically tight muscles and reset the brain to muscle connection. This is very different to stretching. This is where we access the parts of your brain that create movement and allow us to sense and feel. Because remember what I said before, if we can sense and feel something, then we can change it. And sometimes we can't. So the only way that we're able to do this is to do specific pandiculations, which will stimulate the areas that create sense and feeling and movement, all of those areas, the sensory motor cortex. It's our brain map. All the different parts of your brain that were in the sensory motor cortex correlate to different areas of your body. And so that's why Thomas taught the principle that we work smarter, not harder, with our beautiful system. And that is because when we access your brain, it's like a sensory motor reset or a software reset, like we would do on phones and computers. When we do regular pandiculations or regular software updates, it allows everything to run much more smoothly. If we don't do our updates on our phone or on our computer, everything starts to get glitches, doesn't it? It slows down. We're susceptible to viruses and all sorts of issues. no different to our beautiful system. If anything, we're far more intelligent than a phone and a computer, but it's often a great example just for you to see that connection. So, just wanting to consider the third pillar or the third fundamental concept for clinical somatics, and that is that people will often find it really hard to move muscles. Because remember, if your brain is telling the muscles to stay chronically tight, no amount of stretching or forcing or pushing is going to change the communication between your brain and the belly of your muscle. So what'll happen is your brain has just learned to make that muscle stay tight. And then some people will go, let's strengthen the muscle because it's weak, because it's not working efficiently. And then we just tighten an existingly tight contracted muscle and make our rigidity worse and make our pain more intense. So what we want to be doing is actually creating efficient muscle memory. And efficient muscle memory, if you consider this, and I've used this many times before, and I'm sure you'll hear me mention it again, if I was to contract my bicep, my tricep has to lengthen to make that movement happen. Likewise, if I contract my tricep, my bicep has to lengthen. So whatever's happening, when one side's contracting, the other side is lengthening. It's exactly the same process anywhere else in your body. If I want to bend down and pick up a bag, the center of my body has to have that same principle. So if I'm going to bend over and pick a bag up, the front of my body will contract, the back of my body will lengthen and release. As I go to pick that bag up to stand upright, my back muscles will start to contract and the front of my body will start to release from that tension that was created. That's efficient muscle memory. Whereas with many people, if you go to pick a bag up, it feels like you have to squat or find an alternative way to do it, because as you go to bend forward, your back can be so tight, it feels like it's going to snap, is what some expressions people will say. It's incredibly rigid. So it might be that you have to make a wide base, bend your legs and sort of squat down to pick a bag up. Or there's a lot of a lot of heaving and hoving and noise to be made as you hold tension in your belly and in your rib cage in order to make that movement happen. We want to, as a whole around the world, we want to be able to live as long as we want for as well as we want, don't we? Key thing is to have good movement, good mobility, be able to twist and rotate and do all those healthy functional movements. That's what clinical somatics will bring you. So we'll be addressing those stress reflexes by using the process of pandiculation to release chronically tight muscles. And we will do that by bringing back efficient muscle memory. When we bring back efficient muscle memory, it stops all that rigidity happening in our body, which we call in somatics sensory motor amnesia. And basically what's happened is the sensory and motor portions of your brain that speak to those correlating muscles that have gone really tight has developed a level of amnesia. It's simply forgotten how to contract and how to relax. When we do pandiculation and other clinical somatic movement within this process, you'll actually see how we can bring back that muscle memory. It's incredibly amazing. You've got such an intelligent soma that because of that reason, very quickly things will come back, as long as we're using a process that's going to wake up your sensory motor cortex. So this is where I just want to invite you to know that because of postures and traumas and stress and habits and post-operative issues, we can develop sensory motor amnesia quite quickly. And again, a very common approach could be stretching, or it could be strengthening the muscles. And as you'll know, if you look in previous podcast episodes here, I've spent an entire episode talking about strengthening muscles and how that can impact our muscles and our movement, and also stretching. So again, I'm all for strengthening muscles, but there's a place, a time and a place for it. And unless we have efficient muscle memory, we will just continue to tighten already rigid, tense muscles. And in clinical somatics and in total somatics, I weave them together. So I'm certified in clinical somatics and I'm a somatic movement teacher as well. However, I've done many, many years of further studies. And because of that, I've brought in trauma therapy, neuropsychology, neurophysiology, neuromuscular science, pain science. And because of that, I've weaved it all together within the Total Somatics online membership. So not only will you get clinical somatics and you'll get the true clinical somatics, the pandiculations, the processes, the teachings that Thomas Hanna did. I also bring in up-to-date neuroscience, neuromuscular health, pain science. And you can see how everything weaves together. So constantly I'm in the background studying and researching so that I can bring you the best content and, even more importantly, bring the Total Somatics members the very best, the very top quality within knowledge, skills, techniques, strategies. I'd love to invite you into the Total Somatics online membership. You are more than welcome to join. So if you go to totalsomatics.com, click on the Join Now page, and you'll notice that if the membership doors are currently closed, please leave all your details there in the email box. And as soon as I open the doors to the membership, you will be able to come and join very soon. I only open the doors for a few days, a few times throughout the year. And that is because my focus is to be fully present within the Total Somatics online membership. If I was to have all these enrollments coming in all the time, I'd never be able to stay fully focused on what the group need. So for that reason, if you really want to come forward with me and we can go so much further with your health and well-being, please come and join the Total Somatics online membership and the beautiful global community. I'm here for you every step of the way. And something else I mentioned in the episode with Sarah is I've had lots of opportunities to take on different business opportunities, or people can jump on the next idea. My focus is the Total Somatics online membership. My focus is also to look after people here in my clinic. It's also to look after the therapists that I work alongside with. And my other focus is for the podcast. So everything stays in this little hub to deliver content for you. I'm not going to be jumping and searching for other things. This is my focus. And that's what I just want to let you know is when I really commit to all this information, it's fully focused for you and your needs. So I'd love you to join the Total Somatics membership. It will be so wonderful for us to start taking things forward and you actually learn the true clinical somatic movement. So I'm going to love you and leave you. And again, totalsomatics.com, click on the Join Now page and leave your details. Or if when you're listening to this or watching this, the doors are open, come on in because it'll only be open for a few days. And until next time, all my love and all my very best wishes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve